time to finish this vlog. I've been pretty busy with work, focusing on my work and focusing on other things I need to get done. I mean, being a mom, you got to do like laundry, and I started cloth diapers, so I've been trying to focus on what I need to do for that this week. I mean, it's been a crazy week. So this video is focusing on breastfeeding, postpartum, and my son's birth story. So breastfeeding has been very difficult for me. I'm a first-time mom, and I've had the lactation specialist. As you saw, I've done all the products and everything. Nothing works. The only thing, sometimes I get like boosters where, like, if I eat some lactation cookies, I'll get a booster and gain an ounce. Like, I produce 1 ounce, and then I'll produce like 2 ounces after the little cookie booster. But that's it. Like, I won't produce much. And so I took like a couple weeks off of breastfeeding, and I didn't really breastfeed. I focused on formula feeding because it was stressing me out, which was stressing my baby out. So I needed just to stop, back away, reevaluate everything I'm doing, figure something out. And that's when I learned like teas and stuff don't work. Herbs don't work on me. It like lowers my supply. Milk products kind of work on me. So I've been focusing on that. I made my own lactation cookies. So hopefully those work. They're kind of like a vegan cookie because they don't have eggs in them, but they have more yeast and yeah, they have more yeast in them. So, yeah. One second, I gotta move my computer over. So, I don't know. As a first-time mom, I've been struggling with breastfeeding, and I don't want to go to cold turkey on breastfeeding because I know the vitamins that I have, the nutritions that I have, the prenatals I'm taking helps with my baby's growth. And so I still formula feed until I figure out what's going on. But so that's what I'm struggling with. One of the things about breastfeeding is they tell you to pack on the carbs. You know, pack on the carbs to your body can produce and produce. You burn about 500 calories just breastfeeding and breast pumping. Like, you burn a lot. After I'm done breastfeeding or breast pumping, I'm hungry again. Like, I've just eaten, and then I'll breastfeed, and then I'm hungry again. That's like legit, you're like legit starving when you're done. One of the downsides to that is like controlling, if you want to go back to gaining, controlling your weight. Like going back to what you've looked like before, or like being healthier and stuff like that. But when you're breastfeeding, they say, okay, pack on the carbs, you know, eat these carbs, go, go, go. And I'm like, but my weight is shooting up. And so one of the downfalls of that is I'm in the military and I have to maintain a certain weight. Otherwise, I could get kicked out of the military if my scores are not good enough. And I've done some research like that, and like they don't have that protection for women if we want to breastfeed. And we have to get back to our weight, and breastfeeding just doesn't, they clash. Like, I want to breastfeed and I have to pack on the carbs and my weight goes up, but my weight has to stay down for the military. So that's one of the things that I'm stressing about too, is like, where am I going to go with this and what am I going to do? I know that they're trying to like pass some stuff in the military for this type of stuff for women, but there's still like the level of no understanding there for that type of thing. So I've rotated between breastfeeding and formula feed so I can try to maintain a weight, but I don't really like to formula feed because it doesn't give my son the vitamins and nutrition he needs. I know that I will speak more about this in my postpartum section on when I decided to formula feed and how I felt about it. But breastfeeding is just, I'm struggling like crazy. Like, I needed to figure out where to go, and people were telling me, well, you need to drink milk and you need to do this, and I'm like, I'm lactose intolerant. I can't drink milk. You know, I can't eat ice cream to build that type of thing. I mean, I eat the proteins. Talk to lactation specialists. I've tried all the products. I mean, I know what not works, what doesn't work, but I just don't know what works. You know, I'm still trying to figure that out as a first time mom. But I don't think I'm alone in this process, because as a first time mom, your body's like, where am I going? What am I doing? Like, what's going on right now? Why are you making me do this? I don't even know how to do this. And so we're pretty much just telling our body, hey, let's go, move. And I mean, by the first, from when I spoke to other moms, they say by the second baby and third baby, you get it down. Your body's like, okay, produce the milk. But I'm like, what if I don't want a second baby? What if I don't want a third baby? And what if I just want one baby? I got to get this down if I just want one baby. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this process. I mean, I've tried all the products. I've wasted money on products that don't work and stuff like that. So, right now I'm just going to try some home remedies and see what happens there. So, yeah, I've scoured the internet. I've stayed up late reading on what could work and what couldn't work. I spoke to my husband about it. My husband doesn't understand this part, but one of the things that I'm for sure on is I'm not alone in this process. There's moms out there who are going to struggle like crazy, you know. When I first started breastfeeding, I mean, I was producing enough to feed my baby, but then my baby grew and I was only producing 2 ounces, and I was reading up saying like power pump for like 2 hours. So I power pumped for 2 hours, and then they were saying massage. So I did a massage for an hour, and then, you know, I power pumped like for a whole week every day for 2 hours, and it wasn't enough. Like, I was still producing 2 ounces. And so I think if I don't produce enough, I might have to talk to my doctor and say, hey, what can I do to make more? You know, I've done all the steps I need to. I've done all the things I need to, but it's not working, type of thing. So, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one alone in this process. I'm not the only one who's like trying to figure this out. And I'm pretty sure the viewers out there have tips and tricks. You know, leave a comment in this video below on tips and tricks that you've done that help you produce more. You know, herbs don't work on me. I'm lactose intolerant. So there's just a lot of factors that come into play for producing milk. So right now we're just formula feeding. We go off and on formula feeding. So what I do is I breastfeed him first, and then if he doesn't get enough for breastfeeding, I start formula feeding. And then after that, I will start pumping again. So I will like pretty much pump after he feeds. And it's a lot of work for that, but I need to keep producing milk. And some people don't want to do that, so they stop altogether and just formula feed because that's the easiest way to do. So, yeah. It's just a lot of trial and error to get to know my body. And sometimes I feel like my body is just overwhelmed. So that's why I had stopped breastfeeding for a couple of weeks, because I had all these other products in my body that didn't work. And then when I found one that kind of worked, it didn't work because I had products that didn't work in my body. So I stopped breastfeeding for a whole week, for a couple of weeks, so I could flush out everything and start over, pretty much. That's what I did. I flushed out everything and start over. And then I started taking zinc, vitamin B+, and iron, and my prenatals to kind of boost that type of thing. So it's some vitamins that is good for me, and all those vitamins that I listed are good for the baby. Yeah, it's just maybe I need to keep up on my vitamins. Maybe I need to take more vitamins. I don't know. Especially when I was going through my time of the month, I noticed that my supply dropped. Like, it was low, and I don't know if that's a sign. I don't know if that happened to you moms, but I had nothing in there when I had my time. So yeah, it's just me trying to figure things out. And if you have something that worked for you, let me know. And maybe I'm just like stressing too much about it, and there's like a simple thing that I'm not seeing, and I'm just all locked up in my brain. You know, let me know what worked for you, and I'll give it a try. and then I'll post it on the video on my vlog, and I'll let you know how it goes. So let me know what worked for you, what didn't work for you. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one alone in this process, moms. So this is my breastfeeding portion of the vlog. So after this, we're going to talk about postpartum and what I did to prepare for postpartum. All right, guys, I took a little break. I wanted to go get a sip of water. I'm still working right now, so I didn't see what was going on at work and stuff like that. So I'm on break at work. So now we're going to talk about what I did for postpartum. So a couple weeks before my child was born, I actually drank some postpartum tea. I will post here on Amazon, and it worked for me a lot because it helped me deal with my emotions and keep them straight and what was going on. It helped me be less stressed during the birth of my child. It's a postpartum herb tea, which helped me a lot. So I drank that, and then I also did a lot of like reading and painting and meditations a couple weeks before my son was born. And I did all of that to like calm my emotions and like do all of that don't stress myself out. And another thing that I did was, once I found out when I was pregnant, around 20 or like 14 weeks ish, I found out when I was pregnant when my son was 4 weeks. I was 4 weeks when I found out. Around 14 weeks is when I started gathering everything. I looked on Marketplace, I looked on Amazon, I priced everything out. I was like, okay, what do I need right away for a newborn that I can put in my nursery that I need right away type of thing. So throughout my pregnancy, I was just buying things for him that he needed. And after he was born, maybe he didn't need it. Like we got a bassinet that he didn't like at all, so we resold that, and then we got a different bassinet and it worked. So the money we got from that bassinet, we bought a new bassinet. So at least we were prepared for that stuff, so that helped with my postpartum, is being prepared early. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, okay, let's start the process of getting stuff instead of waiting till the last minute, because then I'm gonna be super stressed. So that helped with my postpartum. And then another thing that helped with my postpartum was my husband's support and family support. I was like, okay, so I'm 30-something weeks pregnant. This is how I'm feeling. This is how the child is. This is, I kept my family in the loop to let them know what was going on and what I needed and what I didn't need. So that helped a lot too. That helped with my postpartum. Another thing that helped was I drank a lot of hot cocoa. I don't know why, but I really wanted hot cocoa. I know the endorphins or whatever in chocolate help a lot, so I was drinking hot cocoa like crazy. So that helped me because chocolate calms me down and stuff like that. Especially when you're on your time, you need like chocolate, so that helps with emotions. So I ate a lot of chocolate. Let's see. So it was just a combination of things that helped me with my postpartum, and I prepared for my postpartum weeks before my son was born, because I had a feeling he'd be born early. He was born around 38 weeks. So even though he was full term, he came a couple weeks more than we expected. So yeah. So I just did a bunch of stuff to help me prepare for my postpartum. It was just like a whole process that I did throughout my pregnancy, and I know that maybe you're not financially there. Let me all tell you about this. When I was pregnant with my son, I didn't have a job because it was during COVID, when COVID spiked. No jobs were hiring, nothing at all. No, hiring processes were paused, everything. I didn't have a job, so I was trying to figure out how to support my son, buy all this stuff without a job. Thank goodness I had my military job on the side, so I had a little bit of money there. But what I did was I looked on Marketplace for a bunch of things. Like I found my son's crib for less than $100, and it's a really super nice crib. Like somebody was just getting rid of it because they were moving. It's just those little gems you find on Marketplace. Or like clothes. I found a huge thing of clothes for less than $50 on Marketplace. So it was just like finding those things like that. Little gems. You keep your eyes open for certain things that you find. Like I found a toy bin for free on Marketplace that somebody just wanted to get rid of. And so, and then we found a nursery rocking chair for $25 in good condition, in really good condition. I mean, I can do a vlog of the tour of my nursery, but right now I'm actually redoing it for my son's 6 months, but I can show you all the stuff that I got on Marketplace, and I can price them out for you. And so I also looked at like mom support groups and like mom things here in Texas on like free items they were giving away and stuff like that, and I took advantage of that type of thing. I know it was a lot of stress, but once the baby was here, it was like my postpartum was okay. You know, I wasn't stressing like, oh, I need clothes. I don't have enough clothes, because I had bought a huge thing of clothes, so I had too many newborn clothes. But that was okay, because I was stressing out about too many not having enough newborn clothes, because I had a lot. Even though my son didn't wear half the newborn clothes I got him, I still had enough for him to get through his newborn stage, you know. And I know that this is a lot of information to you new moms, and I'm a new mom myself, but I dealt with the postpartum before he was born. I started a couple weeks before, and that's probably the best advice I was given, and I'm going to give you guys, is do it before, you know. Figure out what you're going to do before that's your child comes, because once your child gets here, it's like huge, like it's like you don't have time to focus on anything else besides what you got to do. I remember the first few nights my son was here, I mean, I was up like at midnight. I was up at midnight. I was up at 2. I was up at 4. I was up, you know, I was focusing on breastfeeding too. So I was up, and then the next day I had to do my job. So I had to get up again at 7 and do my job. So after my son was born, I finally got a job, work from home. So it was a huge like process. You don't have time to think about all the extra stuff like, oh, I need more clothes, I need more this, I need more that, I need more, because you're also trying to focus on being there and developing that emotional social contact with your son or with your child, you know. So that helped my postpartum, is being prepared early. So being prepared enough and early enough for your child to help you with your postpartum. So that helped me a lot. That helped me connect. I was watching all the videos before he was born. I was watching birth videos, because I was really nervous about having my son. So I'll talk about that in my next section, my son's birth story. But I was really nervous about having my son. I was really nervous about being a first-time mom. I mean, it gets a lot. There's a lot that you have to do. There's a lot that you're expected to do, you know. When I was struggling with breast milk, I realized that I wasn't producing enough, and I had to switch to formula. I started crying when I fed my son formula for the first time. I cried. I was like, how did it resort to this? I was so focused on breastfeeding, and I wasn't producing enough. And then I gave my son formula, and I cried because my son wasn't getting those vitamins he needed, those nutritions he needed. And I cried and cried as I was feeding my son. I was like, am I hurting my child by formula feeding? And I had so many people press and give me like this thing in my head saying, you must breastfeed, you must breastfeed, you must breastfeed. Even the nurses at the hospital, where they were like, oh, are you breastfeeding? Are you going to breastfeed for 6 months? Okay, 6 months. Like, she didn't even give me a chance to reply and say, give me a chance to ask any questions or anything, concerns that I had. She just assumed I was going to breastfeed, and it's going to be till he was 6 months old. And I was like, what? Like, you didn't even give me a chance to register that I just had a child. So, yeah. And then that statement just stuck in my head for the longest time. And when I first formula fed my son, I was like, I made a promise to myself to breastfeed all the time. And now I broke that promise, and I feel like I just failed my son. So that's how I felt when I first formula fed. And I know that mommies out there were like, you know, it's okay as long as he's getting food and stuff like that. But then it's just like a back and forth in my mind. Like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna fix this? Is my son gonna be okay? Is his mind gonna be okay? Is his development gonna be okay? You know, I need him to be okay. So that's like how I dealt with postpartum. I mean, you're gonna have a little bit of postpartum when your son is there, but just know that there are mom support groups out there. On my Facebook, I'm part of all mom groups. On my Instagram, all mom groups. You know, you're browsing the internet anyways. You might as well just see, you know, these little quotes and little things to remind you that you're a good mom. Don't let anybody stop you from being a good mom. As long as you're there for your child through the development milestones, as long as you're there to support him and provide him or her the things you need, your child will be fine. You'll be fine. And I have to remind myself every day that I have to be fine. And I have that, you know, he's doing okay, we're doing okay, we're doing fine, we're doing good. I mean, my son is growing, my son is smart. He's 3 months old, and so, yeah. All right, guys, so I took a little break because this is the last section of the vlog. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment if you enjoyed this video. If you have any tips or anything like that, leave it in the comments below, and I'll be sure to answer you. Don't forget to check out my Instagram. And I also have a Twitter too, so I'll post all that up here. So yeah, we're gonna start in my son's birth story. So when I had my son about 38 weeks, so he was due November 2nd, but he came October 25th. So what happened was, like, I was in prodromal labor, which is like fake labor or whatever, for 3 days. Like, I went to the hospital and they sent me back. I went to the hospital and they sent me back. For like 3 days I was doing that back and forth because I couldn't, like, it was like I was almost in actual labor, but there's nothing happening yet. So if you guys have never been in labor or you're scared of labor, let me tell you, it's kind of like you're taking a big poop. Literally, it feels like you just need to push out this big giant poop. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you guys. That's what it feels like, except it's like pressure. I remember, like, we went to the hospital on the 3rd day and they said, you know, not yet. And so I was like, okay, let's go get something to eat. And so we went to like a barbecue place where we live, so we had a little bit of food. And then that night I didn't sleep at all. Like, there was no sleeping because I was in my prodromal labor, which actually turned into real labor, but I didn't know until my water broke. That whole night, I was just feeling it. Like, it just felt like a big giant poop. There's pressure down there. I literally, like, ran to the toilet and had to sit down because I thought I was gonna poop instead of having a baby early. So I was there sitting on the toilet like every hour, like, okay, there's something coming. I know there's something coming. And then around 9 a.m. in the morning, my water half broke. Like, half the bag broke. So I went to the hospital. To see. Okay, so before I went to the hospital, I was like, okay, I talked to my husband. I'm like, hey, so my water broke. I, like, got out of bed, and as I did, my water broke and there was blood dripping on the floor. And I was like, okay, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign at all. 3 days before this, I actually had blood dripping too. That's why I went to the hospital, because I was dripping blood like crazy. And they're like, it's fine, this is normal, you know, just go home. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure, like, blood dripping is not normal. But the next, like, the day I was giving birth, I woke up and I was dripping blood everywhere. My water half broke, and I was like, okay, we gotta go. And my husband's like, are you sure this time? We're not gonna go back day number 4 and go home again. I was like, I'm sure this time, because it feels like he wants to come out, but he's not coming out. So we get to the hospital, and I couldn't walk at all when we get to the hospital. I mean, that's when I knew it was real labor, because when it's real labor, you can't walk. Literally, you stand up and you're like, oh boy, I can't walk at all. This is done. I'm done with. I mean, it was like, I didn't feel any pain. It just felt like pressure. There's really no pain. Like the movies and stuff make it all dramatic. I don't know. Maybe there's some pain, but for me, there was no pain. It was just pressure. I just needed to get out whatever, I needed to get him out of there, pretty much. It was just a bunch of pressure. I couldn't stand. Imagine like you need to take a big poop and it didn't want to come out and you can't stand because it needs to come out first. That's literally what it is. And so what happened, so we get to the hospital room and the delivery room, and they're like, are you sure you're in labor? I'm like, yo, I'm like screaming here. Get me, let's do this. So they hook me up and they check it and they're like, oh yeah, you're in labor. They're so like nonchalant about it. And I was like, yes, I'm in labor. And then finally I get this nurse who actually cares about my labor, and she's like, okay, let's get started. Let's get her hooked up. Let's see if she wants an epidural and stuff like that. And at first I didn't want an epidural because I wanted to do it naturally as much as possible, type of thing. But then I was thinking about all the 3 days I was in pain. I mean, I was like in pressure pain. I was struggling. I couldn't focus. I couldn't eat. I was everything like for 3 days. I mean, if you all have your baby in one day and they have induced your labor or something, imagine doing that for 3 days. 3 days straight. That's literally how I felt. So then I went to, I didn't go to, but she hooked me up and she's like, okay, let's figure this out because you're having a baby and we need to figure out why he's not coming out. So we get there around 10 a.m. and from 10 to 5 p.m. They need to figure out why I'm not, like, the day before I went to the hospital, I was 1, and then when I got to the hospital, I was 8. So, like, pretty much the night I was at home, I was literally dilating myself. Literally, that's what I was doing. I was dilating myself. So when I got to the hospital, they're like, oh, you're 8, but you need to get to 10. And I was like, okay. So from 10 to 5, from 10 to noon, they let me try to get to 10 naturally, but it wasn't coming. Like something was wrong, but they didn't know what. So they hooked me up with a bunch of other stuff to help me do it that way. And then I did it that way, but it still wasn't coming. So then they check again and they're like, wait a minute, only half your water broke. We got to break the other half because the baby is stuck. And at this time, I decided to do some epidural because I was thinking about the 3 days I was in pain. So I decided to do epidural, and I felt nothing when they were checking. And they're like, yeah, he's stuck down there. And so they break my water all the way around like 3. And then by 5, I finally dilated all the way. And they're like, okay, it's time to push. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was on the epidural. I was so relaxed at this time that when I was pushing, I felt nothing. And I had my baby in 30 minutes. Yeah, I had him in like 30 minutes. He was born at 5:51, literally. So, because we started pushing, yeah, 5:20ish. We started the whole process. So, it was a lot. And so you first time moms, if you're nervous and stuff like that, just know that it goes by really fast. Like, I didn't even have time to register what just happened to me because everybody else was taking care of me. Literally, I had like 10 nurses around me. They were making sure I was okay. They were checking up on me. If you're waiting for you to be dilated at the hospital, don't eat broth because that just makes you nauseated and sick. Because I ate broth and I just threw up. I threw it all up. So try like Jello or something. I did Jello. It was fine. Don't eat broth though. And then I had my son in 30 minutes, and it was so funny because the nurse asked if we were gonna have any more kids, and I was like, we just had 1 kid. And she's like, I asked because you just had your baby in 30 minutes. I mean, you set a record. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, it didn't help that I was 3 days in labor pretty much, in prenormal labor pretty much, where my body was preparing for labor and practicing and practicing and practicing. I had Braxton Hicks for a couple of weeks, but nothing major. When we actually went to the hospital when he was 20 weeks old, because I had started Braxton Hicks and I thought they were real labor, but being a first-time mom, I wanted to make sure. And then so that is his birth story. We spent 3 days at the hospital, and then we got home. And at the hospital, those nights there, people tell you to get sleep at the hospital. Well, you don't get any sleep because the nurses come every 2 hours to check up on you, and then they check up on the little log, because you have to keep a log of when you feed your baby and when you change your baby, and then they look at it too. Almost like if you take your child to daycare and they give you just a little sheet of when they fed him and stuff like that. It's almost like that. But first time moms, they tell you to keep track of when you feed them, when you change them, so then they can be like, okay, the baby took a poop, he's regulating fine and stuff like that. So it's mostly for them to keep track that your baby is doing okay. So don't take it offensively. They're just making sure your baby's doing okay. They do a bunch of stuff on your baby, like they do a hearing test, they take a little shot on the foot, they give your baby a bath, and stuff like that. So it's just, they do little things for you, which is really nice. Just know that you're not alone in your labor. If you're a single mom and the dad is off somewhere else, just know you're not alone. You've got all these 10 nurses. You can ask all the questions. It goes by so fast. Like, I thought I was prepared for all these questions, but then I was like, wait a minute. I didn't have a chance to ask any of my questions. And so by the time I came home from the hospital, I was like, I forgot to ask the nurse this. I forgot to ask the nurse that. So if you have any questions, I suggest in your hospital bay, keep a notebook with the questions on them. So then you can take the notebook out and say, hey, nurse, I have these questions. Can you answer them for me? I don't have time to I don't have time to remember them all, but here you go. I mean, like, you forget a lot of things throughout the end of your pregnancy. So writing things down and calming your mind down and preparing for your postpartum early helps a lot when you bring your baby home. So that's my son's birth story. So it was crazy. Oh, yeah, when he was born too, he was born with the umbilical cord wrapped twice around his neck. So they had to cut that really quick. And my husband did that too. He cut the umbilical cord. And then once he came out, my son came out, he was not crying at all because the umbilical cord was around his neck. And then once they cut it, he started crying. And then he was calm after he heard my voice. You know, once your baby's born, tell him it's okay, you're fine, you're doing it, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay. Because your baby in your body hears your voice, and that's what calms him down. So after he's born, he's like, whoa, I'm in this world, I don't know what's going on. I was warm and cozy in there, now I'm cold. What's going on? So let him hear your voice for the first time. Let him be the first voice he's hear is your voice, because it calmed my son down right away. He was calm, he was chill. We wrapped him in a blanket, kept him warm, and he was relaxed after a while, after a few short minutes. It wasn't long before he didn't stop crying. So I know that there's probably tips and tricks that other moms have done, and their birth stories are a miracle too. I'm lucky that when they were trying to figure out what was wrong, why I wasn't dilated, they decided to try something else, and they put me on my side, and my son's heartbeat went down. Like, it shot down a lot. And so they were like, wait a minute, what we just did, the baby didn't like. So they put me back. So if they do something and they realize the baby doesn't like it, they put you back. Lucky I had the nurse who, she absolutely cared about everything I did, everything the baby was doing, everything. She cared. She's like, oh, the heartbeat of the baby is going down. We are not doing whatever we're going to do. We're not going to do that because it's affecting the baby in some way. So, yeah. So if you have your husbands there, going with you into labor, you know, they have the husbands hold the hand and stuff like that. And my husband was great. He was right there on my side. He cut the umbilical cord. He was there to support me as I was pushing the baby out. He was helping me. He was doing what I needed. You know, his presence was what I needed. He didn't talk much because I told him in advance. I said, okay, I know I'm going to go through this labor. Could you not talk much? You know, talk to your husband about it. I know that this is an uncomfortable topic for your husband maybe, but by talking to them about it, it helps them become comfortable with the process. You know, some dads leave the room, some dads don't want to see it, some dads just are not for it. But if you talk to them ahead of time saying, hey, I need you during this time, could you be there and support me? I don't need you to say much, I just need your presence there. You know, just tell them that your presence is all I need during this time, type of thing. Because my husband said that seeing his son born for the first time was like something he'll never forget. It was like he wanted to cry. He was excited to see that process because, you know, some people don't get to see that process. And my husband was lucky enough to see his son being born. And if you have a husband, you know, don't be afraid to talk to him about this stuff, because not only does it build a bond between you and him better, but it builds a bond between him and the baby, because then he can say, oh, I saw my son being born and I'm so proud of that. You know, that's a bond that him and the baby have. And so, yeah, just I talked a lot during this vlog. That's my son's birth story. If you have any, if you want to talk about your birth story, leave it in the comments below, or leave me a message on my Instagram and I'll respond to. If you're a first-time mom or an expecting mom, you know, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid. I'm not an expert or anything, but all I know is that every experience is different. And by gathering all the information you can, by being prepared ahead of possible, number one, your postpartum is better, and number two, you are able to focus on the things at hand. So yeah, I mean, you may not know what your child wants or needs, but at least you're prepared for something. So I'm gonna end this vlog here. I know this is a lot of information, a lot of talking, a lot of everything, but I may not be an expert, and I'm still trying to figure out my breastfeeding, and I'm still working on stuff that me as a first-time mom is still working on. But I just like to document my journey on where I'm going and what I'm doing. Check out my Instagram, because I just started cloth diapering, and on my Instagram I'm gonna keep my journey on there and what I do every day. I'm gonna include them in my vlogs, but my vlogs will be more like, this is my process, this is what I do. But on my Instagram it would be like a day-to-day type thing, like, oh, like, we dealt with a poopy diaper and this is what we did, you know, type of thing. So yeah, we're gonna end the vlog here.